Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Operations and Public Safety Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 5th, 2021. So welcome to anyone that is joining us this afternoon. We have a few things on our agenda, and we will get started with the roll call. Kim, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Council President. Council President Troutner?
Here.
Council Member Boyce?
Here.
Council Member Fincher?
Here.
Council Member Core?
Here.
Council Member Larmer?
Here.
Council Member Michaud?
Here.
Council Member Thomas?
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Moving on, we have approval of the agenda. Are there any changes from council or staff? All right, seeing none, a motion is in order.
All right. Madam President, I move the agenda be approved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. And next, we will move on to approval of the minutes, and this is from our September 21st, 2021 meeting. Could I please have a motion?
Yes. Madam President, I would move the approval of September 21st, 2021 minutes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Next, we get to move up to the business of our agenda, and the first item is payment of bills, which council gets this information through email and has an opportunity to look at it on their own. Are there any questions about payment of the bills? All right, seeing none, a motion is in order to accept.
Oh.
Payment of the bills.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would move that we pay the bills.
All right.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Again, this is for payment of the bills. Do we have any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes. And we will move on. I'd like to welcome Chief Padilla. He is going to present information on our community immersion law enforcement program, and I know we're all very excited to hear about this, so welcome.
All right, thank you, Madam President. My pleasure to be here this evening. I've got two information items for you tonight. The first one is our Community Immersion Law Enforcement Program, or CLIP, I think is what we settled on for the acronym. So let me get into the presentation. So the concept behind CLIP started with some of the challenges we were facing in general law enforcement, but specific to Kent in our hiring, right? And the issue of diverse candidates and attracting and retaining diverse officers. So that's been the ongoing struggle. We've worked on many ways on that. We are making ground on that, by the way, but it continues to be something that we want to improve on. Kent's diversity makes it unique, and most candidates that we're hiring, quite honestly, do not have the life experience in terms of being in a community like ours. They're coming from other places, they're good people, they're well educated, they're highly capable, but they haven't lived the experience of living in such a melting pot as we have here in Kent. So there's that gap. You add to that most of our officers do not live in the communities they serve, and that's not any different for the city of Kent. Our officers live in other places and work here. So the challenge becomes, how do we get them connected specifically and grow that guardianship mentality with the community that makes them identify, relate, and understand, have empathy for their community. And so one of the ways was we came up with the concept of the Community Immersion Law Enforcement Program. Is that, yeah. So how does it work? What will happen is that the first assignment of our newly officers, so these are entry-level officers, will be to do, it says volunteers, but really they're working. They're paid employees, but we will place them in partnership with community-based organizations. and they will serve 320 hours, equivalent of 2 months of work time, serving in our service provider partners in the community. And we have specifically looked to emphasize service organizations that meet our underserved communities, our BIPOC communities, and particularly those of youth. So community organizations apply to be part of a host agency for our new recruits. They have commitments they make in terms of ongoing mentorship and training and indoctrination and to whatever it may be that they're providing service on. And then it's loosely based on a concept from the old Police Corps Academy. I was a director of Police Corps back in the day, and we had a similar model based on things we would do. We'd immerse our recruits at the time. For example, we'd put them in the Boys and Girls Club of Seattle every week doing volunteer mentorship. So that's kind of where it came from. Again, the idea being that we want to start our officers at the very beginning of their careers with a notion and a heart to serve the community. Why? We talked about this, right? We need our officers to recognize that serving is their primary job. We also want members and organizations to help shape and ground up and empower the perspectives of our officers, right? We want officers to learn about and interact with cultures other than their own and expand their world view, which we think will give them a better informed decision-making process when they're on the street. We want them to learn about local organizations, how to connect with the community and resources, and we want to have the ability to give our stakeholder partner groups a way to weigh in and do an assessment on the competencies of our new recruits to interact with the diverse communities, right? So they get a say in that. What's not on that list, and one of the things that's important to me, is I'm really looking forward to the long-term relationships that are going to get built from these early on experiences that our officers are going to have. Some of our stakeholders, Kent Police Department, Representative Tina Orwell presented the legislation. They got the funding for it. We've partnered with the University of Washington Tacoma, their counseling school, and community organizations in Kent. And I want to give a nod to Council Member Brenda Fincher. She sat in many of the stakeholder groups and the formation of this early on and was part of getting it developed. So lots of partnerships there. Again, program design, new officers go, they serve. It's a total of 480 hours. That's a combination of 120 hours they get indoctrination when they get to the police department, another 320 hours serving with the service provider, and then they go to the academy. When they come back from the academy, they have a 40 hours reintegration and debrief, which is going to be conducted in part by the University of Washington. They'll do the data assessment. They have survey tools and whatnot. We're looking forward to getting the data. I should note that currently we are in a pilot program that will go through the remainder of this year. So how's it going? We had our first new officer. This is Krishan Kumar. And our first partnering agency was World Relief, and I want to give them a big shout out. They were the first to step up and get involved in this community. I will tell you that the feedback we've received from them is they want us to send us as many new recruits as we can possibly send them. That's not an exaggeration. And you think about the fortuitous timing of this. So he gets assigned to World Relief at a time when we were seeing the onboarding of Afghani refugees in our part of the country. Roughly about 500 are being placed right here in Kent, 1,200 in Western Washington. And Kumar was right there at the time, and he's been immersed in welcoming, helping, transporting, setting up new refugees into our city. So he is seeing it firsthand. And so it's just been a great opportunity. He's been there, he just completed his second month, and he's headed to the police academy here. Some of the things he's been doing, like I said, he's been meeting them at some of our new neighbors at the airports, helping them get their documentation, taking them to apply for places to live, apartments, setting them up with different resources, driving them to appointments, medical appointments. He's been picking up donations. He was up in Monroe a couple weeks ago getting a huge shipment of donations from that community, and he has been living what I call service leadership, right? And so we think it's been a fantastic experience, and he's very much enjoyed it. This quote from him: had not experienced things like this before in his prior experience, and he's getting it right at the start of his career. Okay. Organizations, and this is our little shout out here. I won't go through all the bullets. We need more participatory agencies. Our application process is now on our website, so go to www.kentwa.gov/police and find it there. We are recruiting new agencies. We are looking to place 3 new recruit officers probably next month. So we want to get this rolling right away. So first to come and first of what we hope will be many years going forward. We talked about program goals. I've kind of covered this already. And then I'll take any questions that the council may have.
Thank you so much. I'm going to start with Councilmember Larmer, followed by Councilmember Boyce.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Chief. I'm really excited about this program. From the early times we talked about it. And I do know in some of the early conversations, but forgive me, I don't remember. This is for just new recruits only. Do we plan to expand this? Oh. I'm sorry, let me start over with my mic on. Great program, I'm excited about it. Remind me, because I know we discussed it earlier, but I don't recall the plan. This is for new recruits. What is the plan with laterals who may be coming in with that same experience of coming from they're an experienced officer, but they're coming from a community that isn't as diverse?
Right. So right now, the pilot is designed for entry level. And so once we get the data and the analysis of how that's worked, we'll look to possibly expand it.
Okay.
We will look to integrate our lateral officers in similar type programs. The challenge is, what's nice about the entry level is we get them before they're committed to any resources right out of the gate. They have no real formal training. So we're still working out. We're in conversations with some of the stakeholders and the union in terms of expanding it. But right now, it's just for entry. Okay. My hope is it will be all of our new hire employees.
Great.
The other, kind of to your point, though, the other way we're getting to that is we are finding opportunities with the way we restructure our staffing now, in particular, where we can cut free officers from 911 calls to go to more of these type of engagements. So you'll see more to come on that.
Thank you, Madam President. All your stakeholders, I didn't see, was the YMCA one of your stakeholders?
We would like YMCA to be a stakeholder, but they aren't currently.
Okay. Well, I can help if you need some help. I think that'd be a good place because I go there and a lot of our youth is hanging out there, so I think it'd be a good place. So
I'm a Y member. Yep.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's get them connected.
And then my other question, this will be up to you and the council president, but I think it would be nice to have them come report out to the council. I mean, going to give a chance to the audience to hear. It is nice to hear from you, and none against you, but I think sometime just to have them come and talk about their experience, I think it'll be good for our audience and the people who are watching the TV, and they get to watch it over and over and over and over. So just something to think about. I'll leave it up to you.
I took a note. Thank you.
Great comment, Councilmember Boyce. That was going to be one of my suggestions, especially having this committee here. This would be a good opportunity for them to come and share that experience.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Kaur.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Chief, for your presentation. And my comment exactly was going to be same as Councilmember Boyce. We would love to hear from Krishan. I think that you said his name, Kishan Kumar.
Yes.
It would be great to hear in his words how his experience was. My other question is, how many organizations do we have currently in Kent signed up for this, other than World Relief and YMCA and...
So we currently have one. World Relief is the one. We have been in discussions with probably about 6 to 8 organizations. Commander Grove is the point person on this, and I should note, I want to give him a shout out. He has been predominantly doing all of the work to set this up, working with legal for contracts and all of the legwork behind it. So we're hoping for much more. We just have one at this time.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you. Councilmember Kaur, I'll add that there have been probably at least 25 organizations involved. One of the hurdles can be for an organization. Chief mentioned the number of hours that they're doing, and they do that in the 2 months. So basically, it's a full-time job, so that means the organization has to be operating full-time also. So, and I just wanted to add that in talking to World Relief, they could not say enough good things about their experience. So much so, Tamina had mentioned that he was so good And like I said, she just went on and on and on about them, that she goes, now I'm scared about the next person I get. You know, like you have a kid, and one kid may be really good, and the other one comes out opposite. So she goes, it makes me worry for that, but they just loved him and cannot wait.
He set a high bar, but that's okay. We want to stay there.
Councilmember, looks like you got your question answered. All right, anyone have any other further questions or comments? Great program. Thank you very much for presenting that. And I will let you move on to our next item of business, which is SPIDR.
All right. As you may recall, last budget cycle for 2020, you approved funds so that we could start the Spyder Tech program. We are, I'll call it semi-imminent on the launch. I'm hoping to have it full go by November 1st. It's been a pretty big lift. We did have some slowdowns in terms of getting online because of the COVID pandemic, but we are really close, and I'm going to give everybody a refresher course on what it is and how it works. So Spyder Tech, if you think of some of the modern ways that we do communication, particularly say if we order from Amazon, and you place an order from Amazon like I did yesterday afternoon, and within about 10 seconds, you get a text message from Amazon confirming that you got an order. And this is, so think in terms of that for the first module. This is how Spyder Tech is going to work for us. One of the persistent complaints that we get in terms of customer service is that either the officers didn't do anything, or we never got any answers as to what was done because the officers never contacted the person calling 911. This helps with that. So in the patrol module, when they call 911 and once their call is in queue, they will receive a text message confirming that their call is in queue and giving them information regarding options for reporting or anything we see appropriate, but letting them know that, hey, we've got you, and at some point an officer will be dispatched. If for some reason there's a delay, there's a time delay, we'll say 20 plus minutes for a priority 2 call or something, they will get an additional text through our dispatch center that will let them know that we haven't forgotten about them, that we're still working on other calls, but we will get with them right away. That text will give them options to call back at another time, go to our website and use e-reporting if it's appropriate, and just keeps them informed, lets them know that we haven't forgotten about them so they're not frustrated by the time the officer gets there as much. And then finally, when the officer does go to the call, and completes the call, when the officer leaves, they will get a closing text that allows them to see what type of case was generated by the police officer. It gives them either an incident number or a case number, depending on what the situation is. And so they leave with information on their case and then information on if they have follow-up details, how do they do the follow-up. They click on a link or they can upload photos into our system. It's very slick, so very good on that. The second module is the investigation module. And I probably should click through some of these slides here since I took the time to figure out how to put them on there. So first one is the immediate response. So it acknowledges your callers, informs your callers of any delays, and then it closes the loop with them at the end, right? So they have that information. The second one is the second module is connected to our records management system, and this is a system that sets up to keep victims of serious crimes, violent crimes, informed of the status of their case. So the timeline on that is they get a text when the case is assigned to a detective, gives them the detective's name and contact information. It lets them know updates in terms of whether we've made an arrest or an apprehension, depending on how we set it up, or whether or not there was insufficient evidence to forward the case for prosecution and the case has to be closed. But again, keeping our community members, particularly in this module, our victims aware of what the status of their case is, huge way to ensure customer service. So Module 1 and Module 2 are ready to go now. We're doing some training for people that will be administrators of the software, and then we will be live. So there's that, and acknowledge, I'm going backwards, sorry. The last module, this is our survey module. This one is the one that we're still working out the final details on. But as you see there, that is a dashboard. And what we have the capability to do through SPIDR, and we will do, is that we will be able to send out surveys and measure customer service, or it even has the ability to send out specific surveys for whatever need we have at a certain time. What I really like about this system is that in years past, we've done community surveys, we've sent citywide surveys, and there's been some limited effectiveness in that information. It's always useful information, but we know that the majority of our community never interacts with law enforcement. That's a good thing, right? But it also gives us a very small sampling of people who have direct feedback. These surveys will go directly to people that received service from our officers in the field. And we're setting up, there's some templates for the surveys. We're working through that right now. Obviously, this is a subject of collective bargaining, but we have support of the union. We're just working out the details. And we will have pretty good data on how we are doing, particularly in terms of call response and customer satisfaction with our efforts. I think this is going to set us up to really hone in on how we can be superior in our delivery of law enforcement service to our community. So with that, I'll take questions.
Great. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Larmer.
Chief, so with the 911 module, is every 911 call going to get a response? So I'm just wondering about like when it's a sensitive situation.
Yes.
You may not want the phone going off?
Great point. Great point. These will be for non-in-progress, non-violent calls. For your point exactly, we don't want a victim having to deal with a text message in front of the perpetrator. That could be a really bad thing. So yes, we've limited it to non-violent, non-in-progress calls.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Michaud.
Thank you, Council President. Okay, so for those types of calls, would that come out later?
So for those type of calls, it'll be our standard routine, which shouldn't be an issue in terms of the customer service aspect of that, because we are still very responsive, and although I would like to see it improve, we're pretty quick on our priority ones and our emergency calls. So there shouldn't be an issue there. Where we pick up the victims of violent crimes in terms of communication is in Module 2. So when the case gets assigned to a detective, that's where they'll get updated information, they'll have a point of contact to ask questions and whatnot. So it won't be real time for emergencies, so for this.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Chief. Another great tool that not only is it a great thing for your department to have, but it's a great tool for us to be able to communicate with the public and let them know how we're doing things. So looking forward to seeing the data.
We will
Great.
definitely be circling back on this, so great, thank you.
Right. Wonderful. Well, that was a very short meeting, but a very informative meeting with good information. So thank you to everyone that joined us. We will adjourn until 5 o'clock when we have workshop. Thanks, everybody.